The story I'm going to tell you today is a story that you've heard before. It's a controversial story. It's a story that they do not want you to hear. My name is Alexander T. Wolf, and I'm going to tell you the true story of the three little pigs and the big bad wolf. Now, I don't really know where this whole big bad wolf thing came from. Maybe it's our diet. I mean, I'm a wolf, and we eat adorable, fluffy little animals like rabbits and pigs. I mean, if your slice of pizza was adorable, people would call you big and bad too. Well, the story I'm going to share with you today is my side of the story. And it's about an apple pie. I had bought a new house in a new neighborhood, and I was the first wolf to move to that neighborhood. Now, my 99-year-old little old granny, who I'm very close to, was coming over to visit my new house. And it's sort of a tradition in my family. Every time I visit my little old granny, she would bake me my favorite, as you heard, apple pie. Well, by the time I had bought my house, my little old granny, she was 99 years old, and she was far too old to bake me her pie. But what she had done is she sent me her famed recipe, and she told me, Alexander, you are now old enough to bake the apple pie. And you will bake the apple pie for me as I visit for dinner tonight, and I will tell you whether you have lived up to making it. Well, I mean, I had to, so I got the pie crust ready, and I put it overnight, and I got the apples from the best orchard. And the next morning, I woke up with just a horrible, terrible, sneezing bout of allergies. But I couldn't let my little old granny down, could I? So I woke up in the morning, and I got the flour out, and I melted the butter, and I put it into the saucepan and started mixing it together. And the next step, of course, is to bring the sugar. So I opened my jar of sugar, and I had forgotten to check yesterday. The sugar was empty. Now, what was I to do? It was my first house, and it was a very nice house that I was very proud of, but it was kind of not very close to town, so it was a 45-minute drive for me to go get groceries. And I just really wasn't feeling well with this, with these allergies. So I decided, I'm new to the neighborhood, but I had heard the three brothers actually are direct neighbors to me, and all three of them were pigs. So I know it's a little awkward to ask for something the first time you meet your new neighbors, but I thought it would be a great way for me to introduce myself. So I left the house, and I went over to the first neighbor's house. I hate to say this about absolutely anyone, but I got that bad feeling when I walked into his yard, and I have to say, I can't think he was all that bright. Because from the tippy top of the roof down to the doorstep, he had built his house of straw. Who does that? So I walk up to the doorstep, and I knock, thwap, 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 on the door, and as you might expect, the door falls off its hinges. So this is already going great because I've knocked down his door, and so I decide the only thing to do is call in, Mr. Pig, I'm so sorry. I will fix the door. And I tell him all about my grandmother and the apple pie and the family tradition, and how if he could just lend me a cup of sugar, it would be wonderful. But there was no response. So I thought maybe he didn't hear me. So I repeated the whole story again, and no response. Maybe he's gone out for the weekend. And so I decide I should leave here I will come back and fix this later, but I really got to get a move on because it's getting late. So I pick up the big straw door, and it's all dusty and strawy, and I lean it over its hinges, and my nose starts to get itchy, and I feel a sneeze coming on. Achoo! 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 And that was the largest sneeze, the largest set of 3 sneezes I had ever sneezed in my life. And I rub my eyes, and as I open them, the house is gone. And I'm standing in this pile of straw, and oh no. Out of the pile of straw, a pink, curly little pig's tail. The little pig was home. Oh no, 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 no. And I brushed the straw out of the way, and there was the little pig, dead as a doornail. A mixture of emotions is flowing through me right now, and at that moment I could really only imagine, what would my little old granny do in this situation? And my little old granny, she always, always told me, Alexander, you must never, ever, ever waste food. Now, I'm not proud of what I did that day, but I followed my granny's instructions. And I was feeling a lot better, actually, now that I was full. And I thought, it's been a long day. I really should get home and take a Tylenol, but I need that cup of sugar. I mean, I would be breaking our family tradition of so many years if we did not have an apple pie together. So I decided to forge on, and I went to the second neighbor's house. And I have to say, this brother was smarter, marginally. From the tippy top of his roof down to the doorstep, he had built his house out of sticks. And this time there was a doorbell, so I rang the doorbell. And I said, hello, my name is Alexander, I'm your new neighbor, and I explained about my grandmother and the apple pie. And I asked for the cup of sugar, and he said, go away, Wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. He's busy. And I wanted to go home anyway, and I'm about to turn around because no worries at all. I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with my pie, but my nose gets itchy again. And it must be all the sawdust from this house of sticks, and I wanted to stop it, but I couldn't. And I sneezed, the 3 largest sneezes I have ever sneezed in my life on that doorstep. And my heart is beating. As I open my eyes, it's gone. And there in the middle, a pink, curly little pig's tail, dead as a doornail. He must have been in the bathroom in front of the mirror shaving, and next to him, ajar is the medicine cabinet. And I'm so overjoyed, I almost forget about the prone pig at my feet. Tylenol, anti-allergy, extra strength. I'm saved. And so I grab the bottle and I open it. Relief in 4 hours. Oh, but what is this? Must take with food or beverage. Well, the sink's blown to pieces, so there's really no chance of beverage. But my granny always told me, you must never, ever, ever waste food. So I followed the instructions on the Tylenol bottle. And I was feeling a lot better with the Tylenol, and now I was full, and so I decided to go to the last little pig's house, because how can I have come all this way and not return with my cup of sugar? And I have to tell you, the third brother really was the brains of the family. I almost cry as I see his house, because what is it made out of? Beautiful, sturdy red bricks. And I walk up to the thick, sturdy oak door, and I knock, knock, knock. And I explain the whole story, minus the part where I ate his two brothers. And I tell him, I just need a cup of sugar. Would you be such a good neighbor? And he responds, "Wolf, get off my property." Well, I never. That is no way to speak to the first wolf to move into your neighborhood. Well, I've gone through a lot today. And I'm a pretty polite person, but I really just don't need this in my life. So I turn around on the doorstep, and I'm opening the gate, and I'm about to get home. But then I hear from the inside of the house, "And by the way, your little old granny can sit on a pin." I never. I consider myself a pretty polite fellow, but when someone talks about my little old granny like that, I can't. And maybe it was all that I'd had to eat that day, and maybe it was the terrible allergies. And I feel my nose itching, and I feel a great big sneeze coming on, and achoo, achoo, achoo. And I sneezed the 3 biggest sneezes I've sneezed in my life until that point. And I open my eyes, and the house is still there. Now, the little pig inside the house had called the cops at this point. Well, after I did a little explaining, I went home, but a couple of news reporters, a couple of foxy little news reporters got a wind of the story, and they interviewed me about what had happened. And I told them the whole story, just as I've told it to you today. And I guess they decided it wasn't quite juicy enough to have a sick wolf making an apple pie for his poor old grandmother. So by the time I had turned on the news, there I was on Fox, huffing and puffing, big, bad, Tylenol-abusing wolf. And the rest is history. So I guess I feel a little better telling you all my side of the story today. This is the true story. This is controversial story. It's the story that they do not want you to hear. But the moral of the story is, next time Fox News tells you that someone is the huffing and puffing, big, bad, Tylenol-abusing wolf, you listen to their side of the story first. Thank you.